Okay, let's choose up. I'll take Jamal and Tutal. You can have Chubbs and Skippy. Let's go. My ball.
Okay. But you got skins.
Not a good negotiator? You don't have to be a good negotiator at McCarthy Chevrolet. McCarthy guarantees the lowest prices on a new Chevy or we'll pay you $10,000. We guarantee there's no need to shop anyplace else. McCarthy Chevrolet, I-35 and Santa Fe, Olathe.
Welcome to Hour 2 of the Midwest #1 weekly motorsports show, Track Talk, on the RacinBoys Broadcasting Network. Brought to you by McCarthy Chevrolet. Once again, here's Scott Traylor and Kirk Elliott.
Welcome back to Track Talk here on RacinBoys Radio, hour number 2 on RacinBoys.com. The mics are hot, everybody says. We can hear you. Yeah, that's all right. It gets a little interesting around here sometimes during the switch over from hour number 1 to hour number 2. Again, hour number 1 on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Hour number 2 exclusively now for the last, 2 years, I guess it's been, on RacinBoys.com. This is the fun part. This is where we get to interact with the people on the chat room, kind of yuck it up a little bit, let our hair down or let it grow out in some people's case. Kirk, his grows out kind of like sprouts on his head, and mine just becomes, nubs. I don't let mine grow out, but I wish I had all the hair that Kirk Elliott had. Well, you still got it. You got it going on up there a little bit. Yeah, you still got it a little bit up there. Again, hour number 2, like hour number 1, brought to you by McCarthy Chevrolet. We are at Lakeside Speedway for the McCarthy Auto Group Jayhawk Modified Classic. $5,000 on the line for tonight's winner. Huge crowd out here last night. Great track conditions. If you weren't here last night, get out here. Night number 2 is going to be fantastic. The first 12 positions have been set for tonight's A main. The second half of the field is going to attempt to qualify tonight. Some good names, good drivers out there, names that you've heard of that you would expect to already be in. Guys like Tim Carrick, Tom Charles, several guys that run out here weekly. Kerry Davis, I think Kerry made it in last night. He got the final transfer through the B. I didn't see where he ended up in the A main, but still think he made it in last night. Only 3 cars out of last night's scramble did not transfer into tonight's race. They started 15. They took 12. So last night, a lot of fun here at Lakeside Speedway, and I've been looking forward to it, folks. I have not been out to Lakeside in maybe a couple months. We're traveling up and down the road with the Lucas Oil ASCS National Tour. Enables me to come to the local races like I'd like to and love to. And, man, it was a tough decision last night. I have a lot of passion for the Weld family. Kirk lives out there by Valley Speedway, so he took that assignment, and I got out here to see my favorite dirt track in the country, Lakeside Speedway. Some of the best weekly racing series that you can see anywhere. And folks, I'm telling you, I know because I've been to about every track west of the Mississippi in the last 2 years or last 4 years, and it doesn't really get any better than what you have here at Lakeside Speedway, Wyandotte County, down here in Walcott, just 5.5 miles from Kansas Speedway. If you are out there and you're listening and you have not been to Lakeside, you're listening on the internet, maybe you're outside the Kansas City area. We know we got a lot of people that follow what we do all over the country in hour number 2. Make the journey to Lakeside Speedway if you get a chance. If you're on your way maybe to, say, the Knoxville Nationals, you're traveling from the west. If you like modified action, they have the best modified weekly racing series of anywhere that I've seen across the country. There's a lot of great tracks out there, too. So to say that this is better than some of those tracks like Eagle and the tracks that you think of around the country, that's a huge statement about what you get out here at Lakeside Speedway on their weekly show. Got 4 classes that run out here weekly. They've got the A mods, the B mods, the Grand Nationals, and the factory stocks. And their factory stocks, people know I'm not the biggest street stock fan, even though I drove them back when I was a kid. The factory stock action at Lakeside Speedway, Kirk, is really second to none. We see anywhere between 12 to 15 different winners any one year out here. I think 1 year it was 14, 1 year it was 15, 1 year 12. I mean, there's always a variety of different winners that run in that factory stock division. So one of the better street stock, factory stock type cars classes in the country.
And we're going to feature the 3 factory stock title contenders on the next edition of RacinBoys TV, brought to you by McCarthy Chevrolet, that you can see it tonight on Metro Sports at 6 o'clock. We have interviews with Justin Seifert, who is currently the points leader and the most recent winner in the factory stock division, along with Scotty Moore and Joe Smith Jr., so watch for that tonight. While we're on the topic of RacinBoys TV, went up to Lane's Old Cars show last week up in Smithville.
What's that called?
The Lane's Old Autos Car Show.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Lane's Auto Car Show.
And a lot of great old race cars that the Lanes have put
Bud
together.
Honeycutt, Ray Lee was up there, right?
Yeah, we got interviews with Ray Lee and Bud. I saw Ray Lee Goodwin at the races last night out at the Weld Family Memorial, and also talked with Bobby Lane, so we got a feature on that. And Darren Fuqua, who's the hottest driver in all of modified racing right now. He won the A-Scramble last night. We got a feature with him as well on tonight's RacinBoys TV at 6 o'clock.
His sixth win of the season here at Lakeside. He's won 5 up at Heartland Park, Topeka. He's the current point leader up there, and I think he's 4th in the points here. We'd probably have to talk to him to find out why. Maybe a DNF here or there that has caused him not to be able to lead the points here, but more wins, I think, than anybody else here in 2012 at Lakeside Speedway, Darren Fuqua. But again, the current point leader up at Heartland Park, Topeka, the track that Terry Watland is running now. Kirk, let's step off into last night's action. First of all, John Lee, are you listening on there on the chat room? I've got to ask John Lee because I think we might have misspoke here, Kirk. I'm not sure. That was not Mitchell Moore that wrecked last night. Is that right? It was Chad Freewalt. Is that right? Is that correct?
I'm going to defer to John Lee because he was closer to what was going on down there last night than I was the photographer down in the infield. So I was misinformed or I missaw what happened last night. So John Lee is telling us that it is Chad Freewalt. And so we'll stand corrected on that got up into the fence and
okay, here
part
it
of
is.
the fence down.
So it was Chad Mitchell and Kenny Potter that was in. And now which one got into the fence?
I thought it was Moore that got into the fence, but I could be mistaken.
Was it Mitchell Moore that got into the fence, or what? It was Chad? Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
All right. I stand corrected.
Well, I just want to make sure that we're not giving out any bad information there. So, and you said, I believe, John Lee, you told me that Chad had to go to the hospital, and you said that was one of the worst wrecks that he had since he was down at Cowtown at a midget race, and at the Chili Bowl was a bad one. So,
and that's another piece of news that I was not aware of. If John Lee what he is reporting this morning is accurate, that Chad Freewalt was transported to the hospital. It was a wicked crash. There's no doubt about that. And also last night, J.D. Black got upside down too. So it was that was all part of the reason why things were slowed down just a little bit and why the laps were cut short. Was that incident took a little bit of time to get that cleaned up.
We got Hollywood Bob. He's on the chat room. He wants to know how come the race director at Knoxville stepped down. Toby Cruz stepped down 2 weeks ago, and we've reached out to Toby, and hopefully we'll be able to get him on the show here once he decides to talk about the reason that he's decided to leave up at Knoxville. I will tell you, I had a long conversation with one of the Fair Board members up there, and he kind of gave me a little insight when we were up there for the 410 Nationals. He told me that Toby Cruz signed a 1-year agreement with the Fair Board to assess the situation and find out if that's what he really wanted to do. There was no longer commitment than 1 year. And so Toby Cruz, I guess, for whatever reason, and this we don't know why, but has chosen not to re-up and get a multi-year deal with the Fair Board up there. And Kirk, it's like anything. I think most of us will agree that working with the Fair Board has its challenges, especially when you've got somewhere around 25 Fair Board members. That sometimes makes it a little difficult because a lot of people have their own agendas and their own reasonings for the way they want, or the way they vote or the reason they vote a certain way.
It's a political position, being the race director at Knoxville. In this case, Toby Cruz had the title of general manager. Really, the race director title belonged to John McCoy, who ran the race operations down in the pit area. Toby Cruz did not have that sort of responsibility, where Ralph Capitani had all those responsibilities when he was in charge. But let's face it, being the race director and in charge at Knoxville does not pay a lot of money. And I don't know this to be a fact. We haven't had a chance to talk to Toby about that, but if you're just looking at it from the outside, he did agree to the 1-year contract. Then he was going to assess the situation later. If you were going to sit down and talk about a continuation of that agreement, you got to believe that somewhere along the line, money had to come into play, and it was not. And so this is a situation in which you'd probably believe that when they try to work down and sit down a contract extension, if money was an issue, that could have been. I'm not saying it was, but it could have been a factor of why Toby Cruz decided to maybe move on. I don't know.
It's sad because Toby Cruz was suited for that job, and it seemed like the employees up there loved working for Toby as well.
Oh, he was perfect for the job.
Yeah, and it seems like the attendance was up a little bit, a little more excitement around the racetrack. I don't know if that's because they were looking forward to a new regime being in there and Cappy kind of moving on and retiring. I don't know. I have no idea. All I know is that he's chose not to do the extension on that contract, and let's just hope that they can find somebody. And I've said it, and this is no secret. The man for the job, in my eyes, there's a lot of candidates out there. We've seen a lot of mentions on hose heads of people that think that are suitable for that job, but I don't think there's one any better than the man right across the track, right over there in the Knoxville Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum, Bob Baker. I think he would be a perfect fit. We know that he's worked with Fair Boards. He worked down at Sedalia. He was the promoter at Lakeside and I-70 Speedway as well. He understands this business. He has the people skills to get along. He has a relationship with the Fair Board already. They seem to enjoy Bob and what he does and his enthusiasm and his passion for what goes on up in Knoxville. I don't know if there's a better candidate than Bob Baker.
There is not a better candidate. I agree with you. I said so at the time when Ralph stepped down over a year ago that Bob Baker was the perfect candidate. But here we go again. He's got a great job over there at the Sprint Car Hall of Fame, a job he truly enjoys. Does he want to take on the added stress and not be paid a whole lot more money than he's being paid now? And the reason I bring up the money issue,
how do you know?
How do you know what he's getting paid? Ralph Capitani wasn't paid all that much money.
But how do you know how much he's getting paid? You don't know that.
No.
If
all things are being equal, the stress level at the Sprint Car Hall of Fame isn't near what it would be running.
I agree with that, but
racetrack.
don't you think there'd be a tremendous amount of pleasure on bringing Knoxville back to its glory days? I mean, wouldn't you like to be the guy?
I'm not sure he wants that job.
No, I'm not saying that either. But wouldn't it be great to be the guy that says, "Hey, man, I got this place turned around"? The person that does that is locked for life.
But if you're going to do that, you got to have two things: you got to have power, and you got to have a living salary.
Yeah,
those are two big things. And I'm not sure the Marion County Fair Board is willing to step up and bring in the type of candidate that it would take to
you're assuming
really make that thing go.
He gets paid a lot more to do the Hall of Fame than he would the racetrack?
No, I'm saying that it's a great job with not the kind of stress level that you would have running Knoxville Raceway. That's
you
all
mentioned
I'm
his
saying.
pay a couple times, though. I'm saying, do you think that the job would pay? And we don't know. We're just talking here. Do you think the job would pay more to run the Hall of Fame than it would be for the racetrack?
Well, it shouldn't be that way.
I know, but you said pay cut. You mentioned pay cut.
No, I didn't say they would take a pay cut. I'm saying that's a big issue. That would be a big issue. If I were in line for something like that, that would be a big deal. If you're going to come in and take on that kind of responsibility, the money issue is a big deal.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure the Marion County Fair Association is willing to step forward and pay the kind of money to bring in the type of person that it would take to really run that
I
place.
think I'm going to disagree with you a little bit, and I'll tell you why. They just lost the best guy they could find for the job. They've got a little egg on their face over it. Let's face it.
Don't you think that he'd still be in line if they'd step forward and put a package together to make it enticing for him to stay?
No, I don't.
Don't you think?
No, because he has an interest in another racetrack. Maybe he found that it was too much. Maybe his loyalty to IMCA and that form of racing meant more to him. I don't know. I mean, when people think of Toby Cruz, they don't think of him as a sprint car guy. They think of him as an IMCA guy.
Don't you think Toby would be willing to give all the other stuff up if they made it right for him at Knoxville?
No, I'm not sure of that. I mean, it depends on what your passion's. What are you passionate about? Maybe he didn't have the passion for that as he does for, what's the other track that he runs? What is it?
Beatrice.
And
Marshalltown.
2 tracks. So 3, maybe it was just too much of a load.
Well, don't you think the reason why he still had interest in Marshalltown and Beatrice was that he didn't really believe this was going to be a long-term commitment from day one?
I think that speaks volume just
that
on
speaks,
him signing.
yeah.
Well, not only that, but doing a 1-year deal tells me that.
Yeah.
Yeah. He probably heard the rumors that the Fair Board's difficult to work with up there.
I don't think it's as much that as what are you willing to commit to in terms of your livelihood?
No, I don't think it had anything to do with money. I think it had everything to do with too many Chiefs, not enough Indians. That's what I think.
That's part of it, but you'd be willing to put up with that if you were paid a pretty handsome salary, wouldn't you?
Not me. No way. I'm not a sellout. I wouldn't, and I don't think Toby Cruz is either. I wouldn't sell out just for the money. It'd have to be the ideal situation. And what the hell? We've had opportunities, and we haven't taken them because, good money opportunities, and we don't take them sometimes because they're not a good fit. Maybe he just felt he wasn't a good fit. I really don't think it had a damn thing to do with the money. I think it had more to do with the dealing with the constant squabbling between Fair Board members and
yeah, but that's going to happen going in. Why would that be any kind of a surprise? That happens with Fair Boards.
Yeah, but it might be worse because it's the most famous Fair Board in the country. I'm telling you, I think it has more to do with the Fair Board Committee myself.
And I still don't believe, I don't know this to be a fact. I haven't talked with Bob since this happened, but I doubt if anything's changed from his end. He's probably continues to be happy doing what he's doing. I look for him to stay right where he's at.
No, I said he's the best candidate. I didn't say he's going to take the job. No. I don't think he will. I think he's got a kind of.
So what do they do now?
I think
who do they bring in?
He's got a cush job.
Yeah.
I'll tell you who I think.
They wanted Chuck Spicer a year ago.
I'll tell you a guy that they ought to consider, Shane Carson.
Oh, he'd be great.
Yeah.
But there again, is Shane willing to step forward and take on responsibilities like that? Why isn't Tommy Estes Jr.? Why didn't he take the job?
Bob is too good for the Fair Board.
Yeah. But Tommy Estes Jr. was another candidate that would have been great for that position. He decided not to take it. Mm-hmm. Why?
Yeah. Hey, so we'll attempt to get Toby Cruz on or somebody from Knoxville here in the next week or two, and once the dust settles over there and they have kind of a direction or know what they're going to do, we'll get somebody on to give us some kind of official statement about it.
It is surprising that Toby didn't agree to hang on through the late model nationals that's going on next week up there at the Lucas Oil.
That's the surprising thing, is that he bailed out before the season was up. That's the one thing that surprised me a little bit.
But maybe the contract ended at a certain time frame before that too, so that there was probably a time frame in the contract that didn't extend beyond that event.
Right. Kirk, I think we come up with some new news, and I think we need to talk about it a little bit. Had a chance last night to talk to Karen Darling, who is a scorer here at Lakeside Speedway, and if anybody knows, if they go to RacinBoys.com's forum board regularly, which we know a lot of people I got on there last night, Kirk, at midnight. There was 460 people on the forum board last night at midnight. A lot of frequent flyers over there, a lot of opinions. Some of them aren't worth a damn. Some of them are pretty good. But one of the news flashes was that CMS is considering reopening in 2013. So I went to Karen last night when she had a little downtime, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to ask her what's going on. And here's what we know now, as of right now. We know that Sam on the mic, Alan Miller, Karen Darling, and Chad Eichelberry are all teaming up to open up CMS, and they're planning, as of right now, to have 4 specials next year. And those 4 specials, obviously one of them is going to be the Tom Wilson Memorial and the Barbecue Fest out there. Got to think about that. 4th of July is on a Thursday this year. So there's some things to think about right there. But I asked her, I said, now, are you promoting the racetrack with Sam, Allen, and Chad, or is Earl Walls promoting the racetrack? And she said that Earl will be there, but they're running the race.
Will Susan be there?
I would assume they would be. How could they not be there, to be honest with you? How could they be there, not be there?
They sold all their equipment. They sold everything
Chad
out.
Eichelberry is the one that has all the equipment. That's his play in CMS.
So he'll prepare the track?
Well, I posed that question to her last night as well, and she thought that Earl and his son will prepare the racetrack. Earl's kind of funny about who gets on his racetrack. So, well, Earl's kind of funny anyway. Let's just be honest. Not a ha-ha funny. Kind of non-typical funny ha-ha.
So he didn't like his Central Missouri Speedway sitting in the weeds all summer long. Get
who
a
would?
little antsy, huh?
Who would? I mean, let's face it.
It wouldn't take much to get it all cleaned up, back going again, would it?
I'm not sure. I know that a lot of people like to see the track open back up. I have mixed emotions about it, to be honest with you. You know, I really do. I mean,
how hard's it going to be to just run 4 special events? Are they going to run the same classes they had weekly in the
think
past?
What they're doing is the right way to do it, to be honest with you. In fact, I'm surprised more tracks don't do it. Run specials only. We see the success of Osborne up there at US 36, running specials. And it works for Mike Franks up there. And I think it could work for a lot of tracks around here. Lakeside obviously needs to be a weekly track because it's right here in the metro. Valley needs to be a weekly track because it's right here in the metro. But if you're out in the rural area of central Missouri or you're up north or wherever, if you're away from a metropolitan area, I think specials could work for you each and every week. Or, I mean, once a month, like what Mike Franks does. Not each and every week. And I think CMS might work. My whole thing is that, you know, what are you going to do? The standards were set so high when Earl had that racetrack. What happens if they don't pay at least $1,000 to win? Which I would say they probably will, you know, because they're specials only. I would say they probably pay pretty good.
The only way that happens is if Earl himself backs up everything and make sure that kind of money gets paid. Then if that's the case, he's back in.
We love Karen, Sam, and Alan.
It's not just him allowing somebody else to come in and use his racetrack. He would be actively involved if those kinds of purses are going to be paid.
That's the thing. How much is he going to be involved? And how much is he going to dictate on what happens? Is it more of a front for Earl, or is it really Sam, Alan, Karen running the deal? That's what it comes down to.
They had not only the track preparing equipment, but all the other equipment they had at the racetrack didn't they sell? That they would have to secure all the other items that it would take from the concession stands right on down to everything to ramp that thing back up again.
Yeah. Bob says either open or close the place. Geez, I'm kind of with you. You know, Earl has a hard time making up his mind. Let's face it. You know? And he does things from time to time. You just go, what the hell? You know, kind of like the last time he called in on this show. It's like, really? After all the stuff that we've done to help you promote that racetrack, this is how you want to end it right here, right?
The only way he's ever completely finished at Central Missouri Speedway is if he were to sell the facility free and clear, and he's completely out of it.
And, you know, that was where I got criticized by Earl. That's where he called in and flamed on us the last time he was on the show.
Well, we brought up a discussion that was
sensitive to him.
Well, you know, the price of the track and everything. And the only reason we even brought the topic up is we just wanted to see the facility continue, even if it's not Earl Walls running the track. We want to see the racing continue because right up to the very end, they drew great crowds and the car counts were great and the racing was fantastic.
Hold on, Kurt. The place lost money. It wasn't a moneymaker. I know that for a fact. Earl told me that himself.
But there's still a lot of people that are interested in racing there.
Sure.
And the crowds were coming out.
But how long do you promote a racetrack and lose 6 figures.
But do you have to pay out that enormous purse in order to make it a successful racetrack?
See,
I don't think so.
That was the problem. Earl, he wasn't going to cut the purse no matter what. You know?
The purse has got to be where the track operator and the owner can make money. It is important for the track owner to make a profit.
Well,
why is it important to make a profit? So that he can put all the resources back into it and make it better as you go, which he has done, but it still has to make an operating profit. And I think it's very possible that it could do that there because of the success that it drew in terms of cars and people. And I don't think the purse that he paid out was the end-all, be-all to make that happen.
I think that a lot of people only ran there because of the purse. They didn't really want to run
Some
there,
did.
But the purse was as good
Some
as it
did.
gets
Tim
anywhere.
Carrick ran down there because of the purse, and some other drivers.
Well, sure.
Yeah, but the large majority of the drivers that race there would be racing there anyway if you had a lesser purse that is in line with most other places.
Your business plan is going to have to be different, though.
But it can work because the interest is there. The people are interested in going to see races there.
Yeah. Well, you're limited on specials, too, because you don't have a lot of grandstands down there. I know Earl says it holds way more than it really does, I think, sometimes. I think he said, what did he say, 2,000 or 3,000 people down there? I can't see that place hold more than, I don't know, 1,000 on the front, 1,000 on the back, maybe, Kurt?
Yeah, I don't know, 1,500 people maybe.
Maybe.
But the point is, we were bringing up the topic about the price of the track because we just want to see it continue. Somebody step forward and buy the place, you know?
I don't care that he was mad at me talking about that. Obviously, it was overpriced. He wasn't able to sell it. So
we just hate to see a successful racetrack close down. That's all we were talking about.
Well, he's got a lot of pride and a lot of blood, sweat, and tear, and he's invested a lot of money in that racetrack. He probably got more than $1 million invested in it. But you know, and I know in this industry, Kirk, you're not going to get your money back out. You're lucky to get 50% on the dollar. That goes for race cars, parts, tracks. I mean, the problem is when people try to sell racetracks, they think they're worth way more than they are. Perfect example, Odessa.
It's worth whatever somebody willing to pay for it. That's what it's worth.
Yeah. Well, if you want to, it's again, like I-70, if they just give a reasonable price, we know there's been people that have been interested in buying I-70. I don't know how many people have been interested.
But not at the price they're asking for.
Well, it's because they're about double what it's worth.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Kind of like CMS a little bit, to be honest with you. So, but I love the little track down there, and I'd love to go down there and watch some racing.
Yeah, it was always an entertaining place to go see races down there, and it wasn't because of the purse. Yeah, it did draw some of the bigger name drivers, but still the racing was great down there, and it was a great atmosphere, and just a very comfortable place to go watch races. I think that would continue even if it were a lesser purse.
I'm rooting for Sam, Allen, and Karen to make it work. I'm not going to lie to you. And what I hope is that they get some people. Now, listen, folks, you can look them up on Facebook, Sam, Allen, or Karen. Most people know who we're talking about. If your company would like to get involved and spend some money with those guys and be a part of these specials, there's some opportunity right now. And so they're looking for those kind of people. If you need to, you can email Kirk and I at email me, scott@RacinBoys.com, and I will forward your information to Karen, Sam, or Allen. So if you're interested as a company being involved in some specials down there, I think I'll tell you one thing that Karen, Allen, and Sam do. They understand promoting. They understand the business, marketing side of it. Sam does a great job. Karen, with her involvement with Central Auto Racing Boosters and able to get that added exposure out there. Allen, a servant to that CMS for a long time, understands what it takes to get people interested in that racetrack. Chad Eichelberry, a racer down there, has the respect of racers that are going to be racing down there. I think it's a good fit if they're running the show, and I'm hoping that some companies will step up and spend some money with them and make them pull this off. I'd love to see the Tom Wilson Memorial back. I think that was a great event. Everybody looked forward to. But as time goes on, we'll get a little more information, and Sam and Allen and Karen, and we'll have them on and talk about it. But step up if you can, if you want to be involved with it as a sponsor. And, again, you can reach out to us at RacinBoys@RacinBoys.com. that will send the email both to Kirk and I, or you can just send it to either Kirk at RacinBoys or Scott at RacinBoys, and we will pass that along to Karen Darling.
In 3 weeks, they're going to have a hog roast down at Central Missouri Speedway. You remember last year they had one of those not in celebration, but in commemoration of the last race down there, or at least so we thought at the time. But October 13th, this hog roast will take place, and the event is open to anyone wishing to attend. Begins at 5:30 that night. Food line opens at 6:30, remains open throughout the evening. The Walls are donating the hog for the event and supplying utensils, plates, napkins, condiments, cups, and a keg. The event will take place in the large shed on the pit side of the speedway where plenty of parking is available and even some camping down there. So we got the information up on the website right now. There's a story up there that Sam sent us last night. This event 3 weeks from today, October 13th, down at the old Central Missouri
Now, it's just
Speedway.
a get-together, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure there'll be some planning involved in that as well, planning stages of what's going to happen next year. You'll probably find some inside information if you go down there a little bit. So that ought to be good. What do you think? Open or close?
I'd like to see it. I don't, I'm skeptical that it will happen. It's kind of like this whole thing. I'll
Wait
believe
and
it
see.
when I see it, but I'm hoping that they're able to put it together and get that track back open again. That's always been one of my favorite places. Of course, I'd like to see it back open again.
We need to put a poll question up on RacinBoys. What track would you like to see reopen of the ones that are closed? And there's about 4 of them I can think of. Adrian has been a big topic on our forum board this week. Butler Speedway, 2 tracks down in that area. I-70 Speedway, Central Missouri Speedway. Out of those 4 tracks, and the people that are on the chat room right now, I want you to give me a shout-out quickly. Out of those 4 tracks, which one would you like to see open? Kirk, I'll start with you.
Central Missouri Speedway.
Out of those 4.
I think that's the most realistic of the possibilities.
No. I'm just that's realistic. Just put all money aside, the track that you would like to see the most open up.
Central Missouri Speedway. Of course, you're going to say I-70 Speedway.
Absolutely, I'm going to say I-70 Speedway.
Which, that's just never going to happen, so why even talk about it?
Because, Kirk, we're talking not in terms of if it's going to happen or not. It's the track that we want to see race the most.
Why would you even think about it when it's never going to happen?
Well, we don't know if CMS is really going to open.
Yeah, but it's got a more likely scenario placed to it than I-70
Well, because
Speedway.
I can dream, I can wish.
Yeah, but you've got to be realistic, man.
I mean, out of all the racetracks, and maybe we need to throw in Sedalia as well, because we don't know if it's going to reopen or not. But of all the tracks, the one that has the most history, the richest history, is I-70 Speedway. There's more drivers have cut their teeth and made it to the big leagues at that racetrack. All the other racetracks around here combined. More big-name drivers have raced there. More people have cut their teeth and moved on to the big leagues. Mark Martin, you go back to the day when Benny Parsons and Darrell Waltrip and all those guys came there and raced, and then we go through the drivers like, Clint Boyer, Carl Edwards drove there in one time anyway. And there's been a lot of things that have happened there, and I will tell you, the most horrific accidents you've ever seen ever at I-70 Speedway. It's funny. I know that I've been kind of talking about I-70 a lot lately, and you're right, Kirk. We're down to the final days of its life. If there's going to be a chance that place is going to be
Getting
set.
down to the final, I think that ship sailed a long time ago.
It might have, but you know what? There's still a chance. But the problem is
See, that's where you and I disagree. I don't think there's any chance of that track coming back.
they're slim. I'll agree with you on that. They're slim. But we know that Forrest Lucas looked at it. We know that Carl Edwards has talked about it. These are guys that don't need a return on their investment. See, that's the kind of person we need. We need a person in there that does.
Forrest Lucas said no, not interested.
He didn't even have to see the racetrack to know it. It costs too much money to race there. Hey, and we've got this video. I know that Todd's working on it, Kirk, from I-70. It's about a 15-minute crash video. And after you watch this video, it's glaring why people went broke racing out there. But what's more glaring is, as early as 2000, 2001, when you're watching this video, the grandstands had a big crowd. That was right on the heels of Ted Carlson owning it and Brad McDonald taking it over. We know what ended up happening in the end. But it was just 10 years ago that 2,000 people would go out there and watch the races every week. Sad.
Those are the memories. You're kind of tearing up, and they're even thinking about it, man.
I just can't take it.
Well, I can understand why you're emotional about it, man. You won a lot of races out there.
I just can't take it anymore.
You know, say if Adams County Speedway in Corning shut down, I'd be pretty broken up about that.
Well, it is my favorite track. I mean, in the whole world. There's never been a track that's appealed to me more than I-70.
Got a lot of emotional attachment to it.
Well, yeah. Got a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Did pre-race show out there 3 years. You know, won half of my races that I've won in my career out there. Yeah, I love that place. Created a lot of friendships out there as well. A lot of friends, man. That's the thing. I miss the people that I raced with out there at I-70.
I can't wait to get that video up on the website because we've been watching all the crashes out there, and it just brings back so many memories just watching all of the events that happened out there. And some of those crashes we saw, I did. You saw most of them too. And fortunately, most of them walked away uninjured. It's amazing the people that walked away from some of the most horrific crashes you'd ever see out at I-70 Speedway.
You really don't. You have kind of fuzzy memories of things, but when you go back and you watch this DVD, it is freaking unbelievable.
I mean, you think this really happened? We really had a track like that around here. I mean, you just don't see this anywhere else.
More fireballs, more cars flying over the wall, more huge impacts. There's several of those fireball wrecks that were going to be on there. I mean, several of them, a handful of them. A couple of them that really stood out was the Tony Walls deal, the Ron Hartford, Kent Roberts deal. That one we have on there is scarier than hell. Because you know Ronnie Hartford is in this car and it's blazing, man. I mean, he's in there a long time. It's scary.
Wasn't Tony Walls? Was that part of an all-pro event?
It was
one of them Bob Harmon events, and he qualified. He broke the track record. Qualified for the pole right ahead of when that happened.
1602, and that was a James Finch car. Had a cup motor in it, and it was a real lightweight car. And part of the reason why he got burned up was because the when he got impacted in the rear, it didn't have any safety straps around the fuel cell, so it just blew open. Big can of gas. And really,
how's he doing right now?
I don't know.
He didn't race much after that, did he?
He didn't race much after that, but he did race after that. But his career was never the same. It webbed his fingers together. It was a bad thing. Bad deal.
One of the most horrific things I've ever seen.
And you know, Tony Sawyer's wreck was really scary out there. There's another fireball wreck. But I'm telling you, the one, because I guess it's because I know Hartford. We don't always see eye to eye, you know, always. I like Ronnie.
Really?
Yeah, I do like Ronnie, though. But, you know, we've had our scrapes.
You had your battles out there.
We've had our battles a time or two. But I will tell you, when I watched that one, because I was there that night and I forgot how scary it was, but when I watched that replay of Hartford and Roberts, and Ronnie was in that car a long, long time, man. Whew. I mean, you sit there and you watch that and you go, oh, my God, I'm watching somebody perish right in front of me. Several of those fireballs, really. I'll tell you another wreck that stands out.
He's still racing today, by the way.
Oh, yeah, and still kicking ass, too. I'll tell you another one that was really scary, too, is Jake Roberts hitting the wall head on in his dash car before he went to the late model. I don't know if anybody ever hit the wall any harder than Jake Roberts did in that dash car. That was one that stood out. And I can't remember the driver of the 12 pony stock that went over the wall and hit the scoreboard. That one there looks like somebody should have.
That scoreboard didn't move either.
Ooh, man.
That was wicked.
One wreck that we don't have, I need to get our hands on it so we can put it into this video, is Rick Carver right there towards the end of the years at I-70 Speedway. Rick Carver hitting that pole up there and looking at that frame afterwards and saying how close he could have lost his. I mean, it was close.
He was out of Valley Speedway last week running his dirt modified.
Really?
Yeah.
Haven't seen Rick in a long time. Another track somebody's talking about on here, Kirk will get off I-70, but Lake Ozark Speedway, will we ever see that track open again?
Possible.
I think so.
I mean, it's too new and hadn't been shut down for that long. But the Gundakers still own that track, and if somebody steps forward and purchases that facility, which I think is a decent possibility over the next couple of years that would happen. I'm not sure who that would be, but I would look for that track to open back up at some point.
Yeah, I think so. It's too nice a facility, really, to just let it sit there and rot, in my eyes. You're going to have to do something with that place. Great sprint car track, too.